I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. I'm Emily, 40F, and I'm at my wit's end dealing with my younger sister, Rachel, 35F, and her husband, Billy, 37M. They've been living with our dad, Frank, 72N, for the past 2 years, and it's been a complete nightmare. Some backstory. Rachel and I grew up in a small town in Ohio. Our parents, Frank and Linda, were high school sweethearts who married young and had me pretty quickly. Rachel came along 5 years later, a surprise that delighted everyone. Dad worked as a high school teacher, and Mom was a nurse at the local hospital. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable and happy. Rachel was always the apple of Dad's eye. She was bubbly, outgoing, and could charm anyone with her smile. I, on the other hand, was more reserved and studious. I didn't mind, though. I loved my little sister and was proud of her accomplishments, even if they sometimes overshadowed mine. Everything changed when Rachel was 15 and I was 20. Mom was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. She fought hard for 2 years, but ultimately we lost her when Rachel was 17 and I was 22. It devastated our family. Dad took Mom's death particularly hard. He blamed himself, thinking he should have noticed her symptoms earlier, or pushed her to see a doctor sooner. It was irrational, but grief rarely makes sense. In his guilt and pain, Dad turned to Rachel for comfort. She was still living at home while I was away at college, trying to keep up with my studies while dealing with my own grief. Dad started spoiling Rachel in ways he never had before. He'd buy her expensive gifts, let her skip school if she wasn't feeling up to it, and never said no to any of her requests. I understood why he was doing it. Rachel was a tangible link to Mom, and indulging her made Dad feel less helpless. But it created a dynamic that would cause problems for years to come. Fast forward a few years. I had graduated college and started my career as an accountant. I met my husband Tom at work, and we got married when I was 28. Rachel, meanwhile, dropped out of community college after a semester, saying it wasn't for her. She bounced between jobs, waitress, receptionist, retail, never sticking with anything for long. Dad continued to support her financially, always with the excuse that she was finding herself. When Rachel was 25, she met Billy at a bar. He was 27, charming and full of big ideas. He talked about the businesses he was going to start, the millions he was going to make. Rachel was smitten. They got married after only 6 months of dating, despite my and Dad's concerns about the rush. At first, things seemed okay. Billy worked as a salesman at a local car dealership, and Rachel got a job as a yoga instructor at a new studio in town. But it didn't last. Billy quit his job after a few months, claiming his boss was holding him back. He started talking about cryptocurrency and how he was going to make a fortune investing. Over the next few years, Billy jumped from one get-rich-quick scheme to another. Multi-level marketing, day trading, flipping houses, without any real estate experience. You name it. He tried it. Rachel supported him through it all, picking up extra yoga classes and even working as a waitress to make ends meet. But it was never enough. 2 years ago, Rachel and Billy approached Dad about moving in with him. They claimed they were between apartments and just needed a place to stay for a few months while they got back on their feet. Dad, being the softy he is, agreed without hesitation. I had my doubts, but I kept my mouth shut. Big mistake. What was supposed to be a few months has turned into 2 years of Rachel and Billy mooching off Dad. They don't pay rent, they don't buy groceries, and they certainly don't help around the house. Dad's retirement savings are dwindling because he's supporting 3 adults instead of just himself. I've tried talking to Dad about it, but he always brushes me off. They're family, Emily. He says, we have to help family. But what about when family is taking advantage of you? The situation has been causing tension between me and Tom. He thinks I should confront Rachel and Billy directly, but I'm worried about causing a rift in the family. Tom doesn't understand. He comes from a large, close-knit family where everyone pulls their own weight. He can't fathom the idea of taking advantage of a parent the way Rachel and Billy are doing. The breaking point came last week when I visited Dad's house. The place was a mess, with dirty dishes piled up in the sink and clothes strewn everywhere. Dad looked exhausted. When I asked him what was wrong, he admitted that he'd been doing all the housework because Rachel and Billy were too busy to help. I couldn't hold my tongue anymore. I confronted Rachel about it, and she flew off the handle. She accused me of being jealous because Dad loves her more. Can you believe that? I'm not jealous. I'm concerned about our father's well-being. Rachel brought up old grievances, accusing me of abandoning the family when Mom died because I went back to college. She conveniently forgot that I came home every weekend, or that I was the one who organized Mom's medical care and later her funeral arrangements. Billy just sat there during the whole argument, playing video games and pretending not to hear us. That's pretty much his MO. avoid conflict and responsibility at all costs. When I tried to draw him into the conversation, asking what his plans were. For finding a job, he muttered something about a big opportunity coming up and went back to his game. After the argument, I went home and broke down. Tom held me while I cried, feeling helpless and angry. He suggested we consider taking legal action to protect Dad's assets, but the thought of it makes me sick. How did we get to this point? I don't know what to do. Dad's health is declining, and I'm worried that Rachel and Billy are going to bleed him dry before he even realizes what's happening. I've thought about talking to a lawyer, but I don't want to cause a huge family rift. Tom thinks I should just cut ties with Rachel and Billy, but I can't abandon Dad. He's all we have left, and I can't bear the thought of him being taken advantage of like this. Plus, despite everything, Rachel is still my sister. I remember the little girl who used to follow me around, asking me to read her stories or play dress-up. How did that sweet kid turn into this entitled adult? I've considered reaching out to our extended family for help, but it's complicated. Mom was an only child, and Dad's only brother lives across the country. We were never very close to our cousins growing up. I feel so alone in this. Has anyone dealt with a similar situation? How did you handle it? I'm open to any advice at this point. I just want my dad to be okay, and for Rachel and Billy to grow up and take responsibility for their own lives. But I'm scared that if I push too hard, I'll lose what's left of my family. Help me, Reddit. I don't know what to do. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and things have taken a turn for the worse. I want to thank everyone who commented and offered advice. I've been trying to implement some of your suggestions, but it's been an uphill battle. First, I took some of your advice and had a serious talk with Dad. I showed him bank statements and receipts to illustrate how much money he's been spending on Rachel and Billy. At first, he was defensive, but as we went through the numbers, I could see the realization dawning on his face. He looked devastated, and it broke my heart. Dad agreed to sit down with Rachel and Billy to discuss the situation. I offered to be there for support, but he insisted on handling it himself. Big mistake. The family meeting was a disaster. Rachel burst into tears, claiming that Dad was choosing money over family. She brought up Mom, saying, "Mom would never have turned her back on us like this." It was a low blow, and I could see how much it hurt Dad. Billy, in a rare moment of actually speaking up, accused Dad of going back on his word to help them. They both played the victim card hard, and Dad caved. Not only did he not set any boundaries or ask them to contribute, but he also offered to increase their monthly allowance. Yes, you read that right. They've been getting an allowance this whole time, and I didn't even know about it. Apparently, Dad's been giving them $500 a month to help out. Now he's increased it to $750. I was furious when Dad told me what happened. I tried to reason with him, but he just kept repeating, "They're family, Emily. What am I supposed to do, throw them out on the street?" The situation at home has gotten even worse. Rachel and Billy seem to have taken Dad's capitulation as carte blanche to do whatever they want. They've started inviting friends over for parties, leaving the house in even more of a mess. Dad's trying to keep up with the cleaning, but at 72, it's taking a toll on his health. Last week, Dad called me in a panic. He'd slipped on some spilled beer in the kitchen that Rachel and Billy had left from a party the night before. He didn't break anything, thankfully, but he was badly bruised and shaken up. When I confronted Rachel about it, she accused me of blowing things out of proportion and said accidents happen. I've been stopping by more often to help out, but every time I'm there, Rachel makes snide comments about me checking up on them and trying to control everything. She started telling Dad that I'm trying to drive a wedge between them. Billy just ignores me completely, always engrossed in his phone or his video games. The financial situation is even worse than I initially thought. Last week, I discovered something that made my blood boil. I was helping Dad sort through some mail when I found a credit card statement in Rachel's name, with Dad as a cosigner. The balance was over $15,000, and the minimum payments were barely being met. When I confronted Dad about it, he admitted that Rachel had asked him to co-sign for the card about a year ago. She had promised to use it only for emergencies and to pay it off each month. Clearly, that hasn't happened. When I asked what the money was spent on, Dad didn't know. I took a look at the statement, and it was full of charges for restaurants, clothing stores, and even a few cash advances at casinos. I'm at my wit's end. Tom is pushing harder for me to step back and let Dad face the consequences of his decisions, but I just can't. I keep thinking about Mom and how disappointed she would be to see our family like this. I found an old photo album the other day, full of pictures from when Rachel and I were kids. There's one of us at the beach, building a sandcastle together, both of us grinning at the camera. I cried for an hour looking at it, mourning the relationship we used to have. I've started gathering documentation of all the financial abuse. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts, anything that shows how. Rachel and Billy are taking advantage of Dad. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I feel like I need to be prepared. Some of you suggested getting adult protective services involved, but I'm hesitant. Dad isn't physically or mentally incapacitated. He's making these choices of his own free will, even if they're bad choices. Plus, I'm worried about what Rachel and Billy might do if they feel cornered. I'm considering talking to a lawyer about what options I might have to protect Dad's assets. I know it might cause a huge rift in the family, but at this point, I'm not sure there's much of a family left to save. I did try reaching out to our uncle, Dad's brother, for advice. He was sympathetic, but not very helpful. He suggested I stay out of it and let Dad handle his own affairs. It was frustrating, but I guess I shouldn't have expected much from someone who hasn't visited us in over a decade. Tom and I have been arguing more about the situation. He thinks I'm letting it consume my life, and he's not entirely wrong. I've been distracted at work, losing sleep and neglecting my own family to some extent. But how can I not worry when I know Dad is in this situation? I'm trying to take care of myself too. I've started going for long walks in the evenings to clear my head. It helps a little, but as soon as I get home, the worry comes flooding back. Has anyone had experience with getting legal help in a situation like this? What should I be prepared for? And how do I balance protecting Dad with respecting his autonomy? I feel like I'm walking a tightrope, and one wrong move could send everything crashing down. I'll keep you all updated. Thanks again for your support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and the situation has reached a boiling point. I want to thank everyone again for their support and advice. It's been a roller coaster, but I finally feel like I'm making some progress. After my last post, I did consult with a lawyer. She advised me that while we couldn't force Dad to make different choices, we could take steps to protect his assets. She suggested setting up a trust, but warned that it would only work if Dad was willing to cooperate. I broached the subject with Dad, and to my surprise, he was receptive. I think the credit card situation had finally opened his eyes to how bad things had gotten. We spent a weekend going over his finances in detail, and he was shocked to see how much his savings had dwindled. However, before we could take any action, disaster struck. Dad had a minor heart attack. The doctors say it was likely stress-induced. He's okay now, but it was a wake-up call for everyone. I got the call from Rachel in the middle of the night. For once, she sounded genuinely scared. I rushed to the hospital, my heart in my throat. Seeing Dad in that hospital bed, looking small and vulnerable, was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. While Dad was in the hospital, I took the opportunity to do a deep dive into his home situation. What I found was worse than I imagined. Rachel and Billy hadn't just been living rent-free. They'd been actively taking money from Dad's accounts. I found transfer receipts, withdrawn cash, and even some forged checks. One particularly galling discovery was a receipt for a $5,000 investment in some dubious cryptocurrency scheme. When I confronted Billy about it, he had the audacity to claim it was a sure thing, and that he was doing it to secure our family's future. I was livid. I confronted Rachel at the hospital, and she broke down. She admitted that she and Billy were in deep financial trouble. They'd racked up gambling debts and had been using Dad's money to try to pay them off. Billy, true to form, was nowhere to be found during this confrontation. Rachel's confession brought up a lot of old memories. I remembered when we were teenagers, and I caught Rachel stealing money from Mom's purse. I had covered for her then, not wanting to upset our parents. Now I wondered if I had done her a disservice by not letting her face the consequences of her actions earlier. I gave Rachel an ultimatum. Either they move out and start repaying what they've taken, or I go to the police with evidence of their fraud. She begged me not to, saying it would kill Dad if he knew the truth. She promised they would change, that they'd get jobs and pay Dad back. But I'd heard these promises before, and I wasn't buying it this time. Speaking of Dad, he's been released from the hospital, but the doctors have advised that he needs a stress-free environment to recover. This was the push I needed to take decisive action. With Dad's reluctant blessing, I've started the process of evicting Rachel and Billy. It's been ugly. They've accused me of everything from jealousy to elder abuse. Billy finally showed his face, threatening to contest the eviction and drag it out in court. Rachel has been calling all our relatives, spinning a tale of how I'm trying to tear the family apart. Some have bought into it, and I've received a few angry calls from distant cousins. It hurts, but I'm standing firm. I've documented everything, and I'm prepared to go to the authorities if necessary. Dad is staying with me and Tom during his recovery. away from the drama at his house. The hardest part has been watching Dad come to terms with Rachel's betrayal. He's alternating between anger and deep sadness. He keeps asking where he went wrong, and it breaks my heart. I try to reassure him that it's not his fault, that Rachel and Billy made their own choices, but I can see the guilt eating away at him. I'm trying to focus on the future. Once Rachel and Billy are out, we're going to sell Dad's house and move him into a smaller, more manageable place closer to us. We're also setting up that trust the lawyer recommended to ensure his remaining assets are protected. It's been a brutal couple of months, but I finally feel like we're moving in the right direction. Rachel and Billy have until the end of the month to move out. I'm not optimistic that they'll go quietly, but I'm prepared for whatever comes next. I'll update again once the eviction is complete. Wish us luck. We're going to need it. In the meantime, I'm trying to focus on Dad's recovery. He's been doing his physical therapy exercises and following the doctor's orders. It's nice having him stay with us. My kids love having their grandpa around, and I think the positive atmosphere is doing him good. Tom has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He's taken time off work to help out and has been a rock for both me and Dad. I don't know how I would have managed without him. I'm also trying to take care of myself. I've started seeing a counselor to help me process everything that's happening. It's hard to talk about, but I know I need to address my own feelings if I'm going to be strong for Dad. I'll keep you all posted. Thanks again for your support and advice. It's been a lifeline during this difficult time. Update 3. It's been a whirlwind few weeks since my last update. I wanted to wait until things settled down before posting again, but honestly, I'm not sure they ever will. Here's where we stand. The eviction didn't go smoothly, as expected. Rachel and Billy waited until the last possible moment to leave Dad's house. When they finally did, they took everything that wasn't nailed down, including items that belonged to Dad. We're still trying to recover some family heirlooms that mysteriously disappeared during the move. The day of the eviction was intense. Rachel was screaming and crying, accusing me of destroying the family. Billy was sullen and aggressive, muttering threats under his breath. It took everything in me not to lose my cool. I had to remind myself that I was doing this for Dad's sake. Dad's house was a disaster. It took a team of professional cleaners 3 days to make it presentable. The damage was extensive. Stained carpets, holes in the walls, even a broken window. It was heartbreaking to see the home we grew up in. The home where Mom and Dad built their life together in such a state. We've put the house on the market, and thankfully there's been a lot of interest. The proceeds from the sale will go into Dad's trust. It's bittersweet. While it's necessary for Dad's financial security, it feels like we're selling off a piece of our family history. Speaking of Dad, he's doing better physically, but emotionally, he's still struggling. He's been seeing a counselor to work through his feelings of betrayal and guilt. It's a slow process, but I'm proud of him for taking this step. He has good days and bad days. Sometimes he'll reminisce about Rachel's childhood, wondering where things went wrong. Other days, he's angry about the way she and Billy took advantage of him. Rachel has been trying to contact Dad nonstop. She's left tearful voicemails, sent manipulative texts, and even showed up at my house unannounced. We've had to block her number and install security cameras. It's heartbreaking, but necessary. Each time she reaches out, it sets Dad back in his recovery. Billy, unsurprisingly, has vanished. Word on the grapevine is that he's left Rachel and skipped town. I can't say I'm surprised, but I do feel a twinge of pity for my sister. She made her bed, but it's still hard to see her in this state. Last I heard, she was crashing on a friend's couch and looking for work. On a positive note, Dad has been bonding with my kids during his stay with us. He's teaching my son how to play chess and helping my daughter with her science projects. It's beautiful to see, and I think it's helping him heal. There are moments when I see glimpses of the Dad I remember from before Mom died, laughing, engaged, and full of life. We found a nice little condo for Dad, not far from our house. It's in a 55-plus community with lots of activities and support. He's nervous about the move, but also excited for a fresh start. We've been visiting the community center and meeting some of his potential new neighbors. I think it'll be good for him to be around people his own age. As for me, I'm exhausted but relieved. The past few months have been the hardest of my life, but I know we made the right choice. Dad's finances are secure, his health is improving, and he's safe from further exploitation. I've learned a lot through this ordeal, about setting boundaries, standing up for what's right, and the importance of family, the healthy kind. I'm not sure what the future holds for my relationship with Rachel, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and moving forward. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and encouragement have been invaluable. If there's one thing I want people to take away from my story, it's this. Don't ignore the red flags. Act before it's too late. Protect your loved ones, even if it means making tough decisions. I'll check in if there are any major developments, but for now, I'm looking forward to some peace and quiet. Here's to new beginnings.